Hey guys, it's good to be back live. Well, it was back in November that I brought in a Texas dad to have a live conversation here on YouTube in regards to sexually inappropriate, explicit material that his 14-year-old son had been given to read by his teacher in high school. He was horrified to see what they were telling his child to read. He put the school board on blast during a school board meeting, and has since been trailblazing on how to improve the reading materials in the school districts throughout Texas. The governor even got involved. Since then, school districts in North Texas and West Texas, like El Paso, have found out they've also got this ridiculous reading material. This is supposed to be educational material, but what are they educating your child in? I'm about to bring that parent back on live with the update, and he'll let you guys know how you can improve the reading materials in your child's school district as well. So before I bring Josh Posey on live, I want to show you guys his appearance in front of the school board back in November, I guess it was, that kind of led to all this. And he read straight from the book that the teacher gave his child in school. So here it is.
You should be ashamed of yourselves for taking the hard-earned money of our community and wasting on trash like this. Here's the tag. A bolt of desire ran down his genitals and softening his lips with his anus. He wanted to fuck her, tenderly, but the tenderness would not hold. The tightness of her vagina was more than he could bear. His soul seemed to slip down his guts and fly out into her. Then the gigantic thrust he made into her then provoked the only sound she made. Removing himself from her was so painful to him, he cut it short and snatched his genitals out of the dry harbor of her vagina. She appeared to have fainted. My student was encouraged to read some of these books in class for 2 weeks before being allowed to visit the library for an alternative option.
Yeah, so that's like what? That's like straight sexually explicit, inappropriate stuff that he was horrified to find his 14-year-old son being given to read. Anyway, I'm about to bring Josh Posey on to learn from him the progress he's making in improving the school districts and how you guys can in your school districts as well. Before I bring him in, got to shout out the sponsor of the video, which is Virtual Shield. A newly discovered software flaw is possibly the most critical vulnerability of the last decade for anyone with an internet-connected device. This software vulnerability grants hackers, spies, and criminals easy access to customer data from off the countless enterprise-level websites. Security experts across the country are ringing the alarm, stating that everyone is at risk. Your privacy is in your hands. That's why I use Virtual Shield VPN every time I connect to the internet. Virtual Shield VPN helps protect my online data from hackers, data mining companies, my mobile carrier, and my internet service provider. The best part is Virtual Shield is one of the few VPNs with a strict no-log policy, meaning they won't keep your search history stored in their servers. I couldn't be more thrilled with the peace of mind of Virtual Shield offers me. This month, I partnered with the creators of Virtual Shield to give my audience 50% off for life and a free 30-day trial of Virtual Shield VPN to celebrate the new year. Just go to virtualshield.com/ivory or click that link down below to start your free trial today. Okay, let's get Josh Posey on the line here. Hello, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I apologize about the fiasco we just had.
Oh, no worries. Everyone has internet issues. Thanks so much for coming on. And you are a Waller Independent School District dad. That's just west of Houston, Texas. It's a rural area, basically, an area you wouldn't think that teachers are sneaking in this explicit material. And the worst part with that part that you read to the board trustees so they could really see, how graphic this stuff is. You told me that passage was in regards to a 9-year-old girl?
Yeah, an 11-year-old girl, an adult male with an 11-year-old girl.
So this is really inappropriate.
Absolutely. And it's from his perspective, as if we care.
Exactly. Yeah. It glorifies something like that, the abuse of an 11-year-old. horrifying. So what progress has been made? That was November. Also in November, the governor got involved and said, hey, Texas Education Agency, you guys need to investigate and clean house. So what's happened in your neck of the woods?
Well, in my neck of the woods, I think that we're being effective. If our goal was to make change and start stepping towards getting rid of this stuff and making it easier for us to hunt it down and remove it, then I think we're leaps and bounds ahead of where we could be. And I would like to thank some of the administrators at the school district for working with us on that. I think that that's really unique in our scenario across the country. You don't see the school districts receiving the criticism and then owning up to it and then working together to fix it. But within 1 month of me blowing it up in the school on the school board meeting, they've already amended some of the policies because they understand how handcuffed they are by federal guidelines, that once a parent starts a complaint process on these books, their hands are forced. They can only do a certain few things in order to get rid of that book. And the process takes months. It takes a mountain of red tape that they have to qualify their reasoning for. And then it takes all these man hours of meetings and librarians getting together and all kinds of other administrators. But now they've looked at that and they said, how can we be more effective? Because if we don't want the nuclear option to be the only way to go. And I think that we've done a good job because they've set this up where you either press the nuclear button or you just launch a simple complaint. And it triggers an informal review within the school district. Now, this has not been tested yet, so this is concept. So let me sell you the pipe dream. At that point, it gets kicked up to the librarian and the administrator of the school, who form a review committee. And that review committee is made up of professionals in the school, a different librarian, not one that is over that book in that library, parents of some of the kids that are in the school, and the person who launched the complaint. There's a whole list that's outlined in the policy, and it's available on the school board's policy website. Anybody can pull it. It was updated within 1 month of us blowing this thing up. And so I think it's a valuable step.
Yeah, I think that's what you sent me, this PDF of the instructional resources from Waller ISD, right, in regards to selecting instructional material.
Yes, you have to have a law degree to understand what some of this stuff means, or you have to have a master's degree in education. But as you start to read through it and get used to it, it makes a little bit of sense. Fortunately, my wife is very well versed in contract law, so she is able to explain that on a third grade level to me, and I can understand it. But I believe we're going in the right direction, and we intend to push the button on this and to test it out and to find out where the deficiencies are and kind of hone it. And I hope over the next year or so, we can hone this process, get it working, and then we can teach it to some of our neighbors and see if they'll adopt the same policy.
Yeah, I'm reading it here. It basically says if a parent raises the alarm about inappropriate reading materials in the school, the parent ultimately only has control over what their child reads, but the school district will pull the material out of the coursework for review unless another parent says, no, I want my child to continue reading this.
So, yeah.
So that's basically how and then they'll review it and then decide whether to put it back in.
Well, you have to walk a fine line, right? And I'm not going to defend their language. I didn't choose it. But you have to be cognizant that there are people that think that Tom Sawyer should be banned. There are people that think that Moby Dick should be banned, that the Bible should be banned. And so you have to be careful about what tools that you use and you put in place, because you have to remember that those can come back to haunt you. And so just because one person finds one problem, it doesn't mean that they can take that away from another child. And I can understand that. But in this case, there's not a lot left to it. And our superintendent was telling me that when they were writing this policy, he specifically fought to keep the word sexually explicit material in that, or that phrase, that everyone else that he talked to, including another superintendent in one of our neighboring school districts, stopped at vulgar. If something is found to be blatantly vulgar or commonly, I don't know what the phrase is, but the word is vulgar, and it's a very subjective term. But uh, they were very quick to point out that they've also included the overtly sexual material in there, whatever that phrasing is, and we're finding that in a lot of books. I mean, I read 4. We've got nearly 100 that we found in the high school library. We haven't even started the junior high library yet. And the sad thing is,
just in your district, there's
just
100.
in our one single high school, we found 100 books that have red flagged for this material.
Oh
Now we haven't read every one of them. I haven't pulled every phrase off of every page yet, but it's going to happen, and we're going to bring them all to light.
So what high school is your son at again?
Waller High School.
Waller High School. And what book was that book that you first discovered?
There's 4 of them. Monday's Not Coming. We have Toni Morrison, The Bluest Eye. We have what was it? It was man, I'm blanking out at the moment, but there was 4 of them, and they cover a wide spectrum. Toni Morrison's Bluest Eye goes back to like 1992, so it's not even a recent book that someone could have not known about.
And what was
Murder Trending is the next one.
Murder Trending.
That's right. And then Beyond Magenta, Transgender Kids Speak Out.
Wow.
Which is not the reason I chose that book. I just happened to brought across the material in it.
So what class was your son in, and what was he supposed to be learning?
English Language Arts, ELA. And they're supposed to be learning writing and reading, I guess. I mean, they called it English class when I was in high school. And these books were given to the students for 2 weeks. They were set up in small groups, in reading groups, and they were at tables, and they called it sampling, is what the teacher called it. And she would promote a book, set it down, and encourage the kids to read it. And if you don't like it after 10 or 15 minutes, you can put it down, pick up a different one. But they were all in the similar category. There wasn't a huge variety, and it was obvious that they were chosen for a reason. Maybe not for the pornographic material, but that kind of came with the genre that they were chosen in.
Wow. So did the teacher ever get in trouble?
I don't know. I've never asked for that. That hasn't been our goal. We think that the administration, the leadership, has more reason to be under the spotlight here, because they allowed these purchases, and they're not checking in on the classrooms. They're not reviewing lesson plans. They're not auditing the classrooms. And that's what we really wanted to expose, was that there's all these things happening, and they're oblivious to it. What most of your viewers are not going to know is that our little bitty high school in little bitty Podunkville outside Houston in the farmland has also had in December, they had a bunch of students stand up and speak about sexual harassment in the school. And they were demanding that the school board do something about it. There have been fights, lots of violence. Somebody ended up being hospitalized after a weapon. I don't know. What I know is gossip. I won't say the dirty details there, but there has been an epidemic of outrageous behavior coming out of our country high school, and we should have Christian principles, conservative ideals. We should have a strong family out there in the country, and it's not what we're finding. And when we look at the schools and we see all the violence that's coming out of it, we have to ask the question, why? And then we find this kind of material in the classrooms, and we find a lack of oversight. And that's kind of what caused us as parents to go to war. We said, we've had enough. We have to expose this. Everyone needs to know what's going on. And we've set out on a mission to let everyone know. For example, another example, we went to Meet the Teacher Night. My wife and I run several organizations. I was on the way to another meeting, so we both remoted in. Now, Meet the Teacher was 100% online, even though schools were open. They wouldn't let the parents come in. So we remoted in. My wife and I were the only 2 people in most of the classes.
Wow.
There was such a lack of involvement in people. And that's what allows this to happen. is that no one goes to school board meetings, and then no one spends their time auditing what's happening in the classroom. The leadership gets lazy because no one's holding them to account, and they allow these things to grow and fester until it's out of control, and then no one can take it back.
So I know you made a public information request to try to track down how all this happened. So what sort of advice can you give to parents in other school districts across America on how to identify whether this material's in there, how to track down who did it and fix it?
Great question. We addressed this last month. We had a public forum where we talked about this in our community. It was a great success. We had keynote speakers that came in and talked about what we can do in the home, what we can do in the community, and what we can do at the state level. And we talked about at the home, we need to be involved. And I know that seems like an insult at first to say you're not involved with your kids, but you need to spend time asking your kid, what did you do today? That's how we got on this trail, was we asked our son, what did you do at school? And he said, stuff. And we said, well, what kind of stuff? And he said, school stuff. And so we said, all right, have a seat at the table. We're going to walk through this step by step. And we said, you walked in the front door and you turned right. What happened? And we've got every detail that he did. And when he gets to the books, I said, well, cool. What did you read? And he says, it was some dumb book about this stuff. And I said, well, that's weird. Tell me more. And as he starts to read it, I Google it and I show him a picture. I said, is this the book? He said, yeah, that's the book. I said, what else did you read? And he said, this other book, I really didn't like it. I put it down real fast. I said, well, what was it called? And as we start to compile that list through the interrogation I have of my son, I start to be very concerned about that. And so that's when we set off and we said, hey, where are these books coming from? He said, they're coming from a library in the class, a teacher's library. And we researched that and found that that's a technique that's being used for a lot of different reasons, but it's a really good way for a teacher to inject her personal books into a classroom education setting without raising red flags. So if I'm going to offer your parents that are watching this some advice, I say, first, get into what your kids are doing in school. Sit down and help them with their homework. Go through the books that they're reading with them. When we first saw some of this material, it wasn't pornographic in nature, but it wasn't something that we agree with. And my wife and I discussed it, and we said we have three options. We can go to war and fight this thing. We can sit back and wait to see what happens, knowing that it's here, or we can read these books with our son, and we can explain where we have issues and why we disagree with this, so that he can understand our point of view and what it's founded on. And we chose to kind of do a combination of the last two. But ultimately, as we surveyed the books, I had him film that whole library in the classroom. And I compiled the list, started going through every one of those books until we hit gold. And we found the pornographic material. And then we found it again, and then again. And pretty soon, we knew what we were looking for. And we exhausted the teacher's library. And we said, if it's so prevalent here, then it must be prevalent in the library. So we went online. You can check books out online from our library, and that's what we did. Is we started searching the library from our son's school provided laptop, and we cross-referenced the Krause book list, which is 850 books that have been red flagged for inappropriate materials. And we went through all 850 titles. We got a spreadsheet. And we have just about 100 that we can confirm are in the library. We have a handful that we believe to be in the library, but the titles are kind of slightly different, but it's the same book, but we had to go get it and confirm it. And, once we did that, we submitted a Public Information Act request. And in Texas, that's a FOIA request for state level agencies. And because it's a school district, they have to comply. And they got back to us. We asked for the original PO. We wanted to know who signed it and their title, what their position is within the district, who authorizes spending on this pornographic material. We wanted to know what other books came in the same shipment, in case there's other things that we need to look for. Of course, we have a short list of what to expect. And if we were to find that all the 100 books that we know to be in the library were on that shipment, then we knew that we would be onto something more significant. Turns out only 2 of them were were in that shipment out of a huge number of books. Something like $64,000 were spent on books on that purchase order, and 2 of these books came through on it. Then we also asked for the line item out of the budget that was used to pay for this, because we wanted to know, was it a grant? Did some group donate this with an agenda behind it, or was this the school spending it? Was it coming out of the English department and their budget at a request from them? We wanted to know all this, and we got the information we wanted. What we did not know, because this is our first Public Information Act request, is that just like reading that policy online, you have to be an insider to understand it. So it may as well have been written in Greek to us, because we got this and we've had to have people consult with us to explain what we're looking at.
Wow.
Because the average person can't make heads or tails of it. And we've been able to unweave most of it, and unfortunately it all goes to a dead end. The guy that signed off on it is the CFO, and he's no longer with the district.
Oh, wow.
We don't have who requisitioned it. We don't have how it came to be yet. Now we're not pursuing the Public Information Act requests at the moment, because we're hoping to have a good policy review this leading into the spring. The district has put a moratorium on purchasing new books and new educational materials until they review their procedure for buying new materials. And we're pushing for a few things to be included in that new procedure. And now some of them won't, because that's just a pipe dream, but it demonstrates how serious we are about this. Number one, everything that comes in needs to have the name of the person who wants it on the requisition form. There should be individual accountability. If you're requesting a new math book because you think it's better to teach out of, then you should put your name on the request so that I can find it with a Public Information Act request. If you want a whole series of books from a certain genre of author that's in vogue right now, then you should put your name on that request, and you should explain what is the educational value that this expense will bring to our school district. Because if we spend $1 on these books, are we going to get $2 worth of value out of that in our kids? Because if we're going to get half $1 value, I don't think it's a good investment. And we should look at it like that, because I mean, we're not a rich school district. We're pretty poor. We're probably 62% impoverished in our school district. And so when we spend money, I think it should be purposeful. And so going back to your point, as I ramble on, because I'm good at that, parents need to be involved. They need to know that they have the reins. There's a lot of parental bill of rights. In fact, there's a stalled bill in DC called the Parental Bill of Rights. And it explains what every parent's rights are in a school district. And as I looked through our policy online, I actually found the Parent Bill of Rights for my school district in the policy. You have the right to review test materials and learning materials from the classroom. You have the right to audit the schools and walk through. You can go to the library. You can do all these things. Now, COVID makes it weird, and I'm not sure who has the right to do what during COVID, but these are rights that are given to the parents and taxpayers, by the way, not just parents in a school district, that you have the right of oversight, because at the end of the day, we fund it and we elect people to oversee it in the school board. So as citizens, we really have the power. And I know you're a former homeschooled student. I was actually private schooled my entire scholastic career, but my kids go to a public school. We homeschooled through junior high, and now we put my son in high school. And the easy thing to do is to say, well, I'm going to pull back, retreat, and go to where it's safe, where I know I can get a quality education for my money, or I can be in control. But really, we have the right to be in control. And the fact that that's been taken away from us should make every single one of your viewers irate. We should say, you know what? This has been stolen from us, and we need to go get it back. And that's what we've been doing.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of scary to turn your kids over to the government for school, but we do pay for it in our taxes, so we should be able to have some say in it. But yeah,
or don't make me pay for it. Yeah.
exactly, right? Yeah. I love homeschool. I was homeschooled. My mom gave me the ACE curriculum. Look that up. It rocks. Anyway, so it's good to know for parents that they can file a Freedom of Information Act request or public information request. You can Google how to write one of those letters to formally demand under law that they present documentation of what they're doing at the school. So any parent can do that in America. But beyond that, you said that you are scheduling a viewing of a documentary on this topic.
So through the noise that we've been making and the attention that we've been getting out here in little bitty part of the world, we were reached out to by a group called Matthew18.org, and they have a phenomenal ministry. I've never heard of them, but as I look into it, I'm really impressed by what they have going on. They asked if we'd be interested in having a private showing of a documentary that they were a part of. And with that comes a Q&A afterwards by one of the cast members. And they sent us the YouTube link. And at first, we're making noise. People are coming from the woodwork. Everybody wants to get some of that spotlight. And we said, yeah, we'll take a look at it, whatever. Turns out it's phenomenal. They look at the entire school system nationwide and the sex ed system that's taking place. And they said, there's an agenda being pushed. We can prove it. They have whistleblowers and experts on camera explaining all of these things. Well, in the preview, one of the ladies says they wanted me to find out with my team how to teach homosexuality, how to teach the concept of homosexuality to 4-year-olds.
Wow. Yeah, I actually have the trailer you sent me. I can play that for the viewers.
Sure.
So that they can see this themselves if they want. So this is what you're going to be screening.
February 3rd at 6:30 p.m. They can go to our Waller County Patriots website and see where it's going to be. WallerCountyPatriots.com.
Awesome.
That's right.
Okay, so here it is. I'm going to bring the screen up. And
sexual predators and comprehensive sex education both break down inhibitions. That's what they start with. They also gain trust with the child and then slowly start to get them towards sexual activity.
Anything goes. You are teaching children adult child sex, you're teaching transgender issues, and children are moldable and influenced by that.
They said, okay, now we need you and your team to be able to explain what homosexuality is to a 4-year-old student.
To introduce this kind of material at that age, frankly, it's child abuse.
You're going to teach our children that it's okay for any two children of any age, of any sex, to have sexual intercourse with each other as long as two components are present. One's using a condom and they both give consent. Did I hear that correctly?
It's not a neutral venue. There's no such thing. Okay, the schools are doing your job. They are discipling your children, but they're not discipling them in the faith of Jesus Christ.
It's only the exceptional child that even survives that system. Most do not survive. Most have not survived.
They believe that children are sexual from birth and that they deserve and have the right to be sexually active and to seek sexual pleasure. And if anyone is stopping them from that, then you are judging and oppressing them.
Even kindergarten now, they're wanting to teach them more and more perverse information and acts and put that into the children's minds. And once that poison is in a child's mind, it doesn't leave. They'll always remember what they learned. And it's by design, it's orchestrated.
In my humble opinion, it will be worse before it gets better.
Yeah. So February 3rd, 6:30 p.m. At a church in Hockley. And we're going to have that. I'm not going to name the church here. I don't want them getting protested in advance. We'll have it on our website. People can go find it. But we struggled to find a church in our community that was willing to host something like this. This is right in the alley of what we're fighting. It's not by chance that we found 100 books with pornographic material in our high school library that have been purchased for years. And it's really exciting that the church is willing to host something like this, that we're able to find somebody in the community to do it, because I don't think that a group of angry parents can be effective. I don't think that a bunch of politicians can be effective. I think the only thing that can be effective is God. And the salvation for our nation is going to come from him through his church. So if we can get the church to activate, if we can get people in the Christian community to step up and to vote with Christian principles, I'm not going to tell them who to vote for, but if we can get the churches to go to the polls, our primary is March 1st. And if we show up and we vote with Christian principles as a group of Christians from church, and we vote for people who we believe will defend what we value, then come November, when all the people show up in the masses at the real election and they just pull a lever for ours, they're going to be voting in people who swore allegiance to the same thing that we did, and that is God. And so we have been really wanting to partner with churches to get the word out, to not talk about who to vote for, whether Jesus would be a Democrat or Republican, because we don't care about that. We just want people to be involved. And I mentioned earlier that that's one of the biggest things that we deal with. We were one of the only 2 people in Meet the Teacher Night. But if we can get congregations to go out and start voting at early voting with Christian principles, if they want to know who to vote for, they should do the research. I'll be glad to talk to them about who I'm voting for and why. And we're reaching out to these churches to make partners where we can go in and say, hey, we're hosting these events to make our community better and defend our kids. By the way, we have people running like Art Hernandez in Texas 85 for Texas State Representative. He's from our group. Vote for him if you want us to have a voice in Austin. We want to go through and talk to everyone in the back of the church, not during a service. We don't want them to violate their 501c3, but we want to go in and say, these are the things in the schools that we're finding. These are the problems that exist. We want to fix that. We don't believe you want it to be there. Join us. And if you want to help us, go to the polls and vote. And we're kind of pivoting from simply being in the school arena at a school board meeting. And we've looked at the battlefield and we said, how do we become really effective in this? How do we defend? Because another school district in our county tried to do an emergency mask mandate over Christmas when nobody was around. Katy ISD, which is partially in our school district, you just did an expose with one of their parents talking about they're effectively doing vaccine mandates for children. And, these things are going on because people have been elected who don't see that as a problem. And we need to fix that. And so we said, how can we amplify our power as a group? We're doing a great job being a grassroots organization with the Waller County Patriots. But if we wanted to be more effective, we need a bigger resource. And who's not once answered the phone when we've called or been willing to show up to a meeting with us is the Waller County GOP. There's a whole office that's elected, and they've never offered to help us out.
Wow.
In fact, they've turned their back on us and said they don't want to touch it with a 20-foot pole. They're going to be mad that I just brought them up. But you know what? We have a candidate running to take their position. We said, all right, if we can't talk to you, then we're going to try to vote somebody in that will. So, hey, everybody, meet Leisha Roberts. She's running for Waller County GOP chair. At the head of the party, she can call all the voter precincts together and they vote on policy matters for our county. That then gets pushed up the ranks through the state to help guide the state Republican agenda. So if we take that position, then we, along with a state rep out of Art Hernandez in 85, we can really push our message into Austin. Now we got the governor to talk about us. We've got lots of politicians who know who we are, but that's going to really expand our reach. And so we have focused on grassroots ground game and the precinct strategy to try to take that thing over. And we're not doing it because we're hardcore partisan people. We're doing it because we love our kids, and we're not being helped by people that could be helping us. And so we're saying, let's use the system to amplify our power. And if we take a 2/3 vote by filling all the precinct chairs, which is something super political, I've never even done that before. But if we get enough people to run for precinct chairs where we have 2/3 of the vote, then we can control a meeting. We can convene a meeting, we can run it, because 2/3 majority rules. Then if we have the chair, then and a 2/3 majority, then we can really establish policy, and we can really get behind conservative candidates who are willing to uphold Christian principles in these school boards. And I'm not saying the people that are on there now are not Christians, but I am saying that they're allowing a lot of things that don't go with my Christian faith to come before them. And maybe it's time after 30 years that some of these people step down and let a new group of people try to move the football forward. Because I believe that we can fix this. And I believe if enough parents get involved, I think that if enough of us run for office and stick our nose in places that we would never stick them in before because, well, we were too busy or we had too much going on at the house or with the kids' soccer, that if we start to pay attention and shine a light, all this stuff, this garbage starts to dry up. And I think a lot of it will go away once we all start paying attention.
Yeah, you do a good job of laying out the importance of local elections.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really shaking things up there in a positive way, it sounds like. Wow, 100 books in
100.
one high school.
Yeah.
With sexually inappropriate materials, including the glorification of the abuse of an 11-year-old girl. That's pretty horrifying. That they were giving that to your 14-year-old son. What sort of programming does that put in his brain?
Yeah, who's for that?
Yeah.
Right? Who chose that? What a terrible thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Josh Posey of Waller County, Texas, just outside of Houston. You said your website is what again?
WallerCountyPatriots.com.
Okay, great. That'll have more on the documentary.
That's right. February 3rd, 6:30, Hockley, Texas. We're having a viewing. There's also one in Kingwood on the 1st. I don't know the exact location. Some of our network people have talked about a third showing in a different part of Houston, but that's not confirmed yet. So
Okay.
It's gaining a lot of traction, and the more people that see that, the better off we're all going to be.
Awesome. Well, best of luck with you and that endeavor to clean up the reading materials in schools.
Right, thank you very much.
Yep. Stay in touch. We'll talk to you later.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.